Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and I work with a lot of individuals with attachment wounds. Today, I wanted to go over a topic regarding how avoidants react when you detach, because every avoidant, is somewhat different. All individuals are. And I noticed some patterns and I wanted to discuss them with you. When I'm discussing some of these aspects, I will also mention more of the time period of when this happens and how long it kind of lasts, because avoidant individuals overall, their reaction may not last long, which I think is a common misconception. And we're going to talk about that today. So the very first common reaction to when an avoidant reacts when you detach, right, is actually they feel a sense of loss, which most people do. They can feel that the detachment that you're, coming from is less than you used to be towards your attachment, right? So they can feel that sense of loss, the gap of your attachment. And so what happens when they feel that sense of loss is they do actually try to reestablish that connection in order to gain a sense of comfort again. This connection, however, is typically short-lived. And that is, I think, what people get confused with, which is why, typically we'll see off and on relationships. This happens with off and on relationships where one individual, the one who feels more anxious leaning in the couple, they tend to detach to gain a sense of control, or maybe they feel hurt. And then they feel better once the avoidant tries to reestablish comfort again. And then when they feel like the avoidant individual has calmed down, they're not as magnetized to their partner and they're more back to their regular self. The anxious partner starts feeling the anxious leaning partner starts feeling more alone again, and they may detach again, subconsciously or consciously, to gain attention again. And then what happens is they start cycling. However, what I notice is avoidant individuals, after a while, they start to recognize this pattern and get frustrated by it, so they tend to shut down. And so the reason they shut down is actually that the fear of loss is extremely deep for an avoidant individual, particularly. I've mentioned before, they take breakups and pain very hard. And so as the fear surfaces of their fear of loss and it becomes more prominent to them, what they actually do is they emotionally deactivate and shut down almost, permanently. Which is why this technique doesn't work, right? Where if you're trying to get attention from your partner, trying to create a sense of loss is only going to create issues in the long run, because the avoidant individual, the reason why these individuals are so detached from the start is because they don't want to lose things. They don't want to fail. And so the easiest way is to not get attached. So what you're doing is you're reinforcing that fear. So they're going to reestablish, okay, if I really am going to lose this person because they continuously pull away, I might as well just not feel for them. And they detach from you. As you detach, they detach, right? And that kind of happens after the fear of loss. So you will see a prominent sense of a fear of loss. Now, the other thing that I see that happens with couples is particularly if they feel like their partner is reactive. And this person, the avoidant individual, has, a less sense of morals when it comes to certain things. And I'll explain it. Basically, the avoidant feels comfortable lying to maintain a perceived sense of a, relationship equilibrium, comfort, right? Stability. And they don't feel like the lie is necessarily a bad thing because they're afraid of how you're going to react. And that's not an excuse, but that often happens. Or sometimes they just don't want to deal with actually fixing what's really bothering you. And so let's kind of look at an example. An example could be that you're upset just in general, that they've been more detached in the relationship. Maybe it's been like a month. So it's not like just here and there. It's something that's a little more obvious. And you confront them. You're saying, I've noticed that you've been a little bit more detached. I talked to you about it a little bit, and I'm getting a little worried, but I'm also feeling a little bit, neglected by you, and I want to try and figure out how we can make this work, what's going on, whatever it may be, whatever your relationship is, right, between your partner. And normally, a healthy individual, let's say the reason is that they are feeling overwhelmed by you, so that's why they're avoiding you, basically, right? An individual who's honest, and a lot of avoidants are quite ethical and open. Some of them are, and they will say, the truth is, I've been really overwhelmed by you. Every time I get, step foot in the door, you kind of just tear me down. That's how I feel. I know you don't mean it. Or you have a lot of things going on and you're trying to expect me to fix it and I can't. So sometimes I just, stay out a little bit longer, whatever it may be. But instead of saying that, they may say, yeah, work's been busy. And what ends up happening is they're doing that because you're starting to detach from them as you become more and more neglected, right? And so I actually see this a lot with both anxious and fearful leaning anxious. As their needs are not getting met, for example, if they're feeling like alone in the relationship, if they're feeling like their partner is busy, they actually may detach because they are afraid of their partner leaving and they're not sure what's going on. So they're preemptively preparing for the worst. And so that detachment is actually part of the reason why the avoidant may lie, because they're actually, I'm not saying it's an excuse, but they're trying to make you stop pulling away because now how do I describe it? They notice that you're becoming irritable and angry and you're pulling away. And that can make you more critical, which is going to make them feel more overwhelmed, and that's going to make them pull away. And so they think in their mind, okay, if I lie to my partner, they're going to be less irritable and detached and angry towards me. And then I'm going to be more willing to come home, and then all the problems will go away. Now, if it was that easy, which it's not, that would be great. What ends up happening is the partner, anxious preoccupied, is really good with this. They can kind of tell their avoidant partner is lying when they say, yeah, work's been busy, but they're like, oh, I think it's a personal thing. So what ends up happening is the anxious partner either pulls away further or they crash out, lash out, and get angry. And then what happens is the partner pulls away more. The anxious individual becomes more irritable and more alone. And so they actually start pulling away as well. And the relationship starts feeling more distant. So that's why lying doesn't always work. But sometimes avoidant individuals do lie because they're trying to make you not be mad at them, basically. I hope that made sense. It's a little confusing because I look at dynamics from an external perspective, and so that's just how I word it. The next one is they may react confused. And actually, if they're more healing with their attachment issues, they're probably going to actually increase communication because they want to ask for clarity. They want to gain clarity by asking you questions. I noticed that you've been a little bit more detached. Are you mad at me? Did I do something wrong? Are you okay? Is it something to do with work, right? Unhealed ones, unfortunately, they start getting annoyed, right? They're annoyed. They are confused, but they're not going to tell you because they don't want to admit it because they think it's a weakness. And so they're just, they're going to be annoyed at you. And so that's going to actually make them shut down more. Unfortunately, right? The next one, and I like this one because I do see this one, and I think this is the one that makes people get the most confused, okay? Avoidance, if you detach, they will increase their effort, but only if they feel like your detachment is justified. So if you're detaching because you're trying to manipulate them, that's going to be more like the first, fear of loss example that I gave you where it's going to cycle. If they actually feel like your detachment is justified, let's say they liked some girl's picture on Instagram and that made you uncomfortable. And they probably don't feel so great about it either because maybe this was an ex-partner and they feel really, really guilty that they did that. They should not have done that and they are loyal to you, but they feel like that's, leaning on the wrong line. And so you've been feeling a little bit more detached naturally. You feel uncomfortable. You feel like, can I trust this person? And so they know your detachment is justified because they feel horrible about what they did. And so they actually increase effort genuinely because they want to change, because they don't like that they did that. And they realize, you're important to me. Why should I do something dumb to lose someone I care about? And so they do have an increased effort, and this actually can motivate them to change. Now, I'm not saying that you should wait until your avoidant partner messes up, but especially in my profession, unfortunately, a lot of times that is what makes them really try and change, right? I would say most of the time when I'm working with couples, one of the main reasons that they come into therapy is when things are almost at the breaking point. So that could be my perspective alone as a therapist. Like that could be a therapist perspective, but increase effort when they feel like your detachment is justified. And usually they do want to change. If it's genuine, they're going to work towards it. The next one is if your detachment is some sort of game and you're trying to gain something out of them, you will see anger and resentment. They will feel resentful. They will feel like you don't care about them. They feel like you're messing with their head is a very common word. They feel like you're playing games, right? And they don't like that feeling, right? It's not a fun feeling for them at all. And so it's very important to recognize that if you are doing this, you are probably going to end up, it's going to backfire on you because avoidant individuals don't like games, okay? The next one is, this is so true, and I don't know how else to word it, but they just feel like indifferent towards it. Because sometimes because of the way they are, they might just think it's okay because they don't recognize you're detached because they're detached. And so it might not really do anything, like neither good nor bad. It's just, it is what it is. And so if you want to be detached and it helps you and they're indifferent to it and that helps you manage your feelings, I think that's okay. I do think it's okay as long as you're still able to show some of your emotions so that you can help your partner and model them what a healthy relationship is and you don't become resentful as well, okay? And the last one, this does happen. Usually it happens after a long period, so I don't want you guys to think it happens like just for the first second you get detached. But if you are constantly detached, the avoidant, they may break up with you. And if you guys are like exes, they're just going to move on very quickly. Like, jump into some sort of rebound relationship because they're trying to suppress the feelings of shame that the relationship might be failing. Does that make sense? And so they don't like to face those feelings. They may someday, and it may show up and surface, but probably not anytime soon because they're working very hard to detach from you as well. And so it's very important to recognize that if you are feeling detached from your partner, the outcome is variant depending on why it's happening. There are so many variables. So a lot of people think if you detach from your partner, you will get your partner's love. Sometimes, but sometimes not. And so that's why I wanted to break up many different reasons and ways that this can happen because I see a lot. And so I hope this video is helpful. Please subscribe, like, and I'll see you in the next one.